Hello and welcome to another bonus edition of Final Review, our reactions to the 94th and final Academy Awards. Although after a ratings boost from last night, maybe this is a sign of good things to come from the Academy Awards. Oz is here, and I don't have a fancy intro written for you here, Oz, because last time somebody said something that was written for them, they got slapped in the face in front of 15 million people. Oz, how you doing today, man?
I'm just bummed, really bummed. Just that was just a bad experience all around last night. A couple good wins that I'm happy about, but boy, that was a misery slog of a ceremony.
That's an appropriate place to start, is just our initial reactions to the overall night. And it's disingenuous if we don't just kind of jump right into the thing that this Oscars is going to be remembered for. And the thing that maybe all the parties involved may end up being remembered for. I'm still kind of putting the historical context involved of what got erased last night. As far as
you're talking about the Eyes of Tammy Faye winning Best Makeup.
Yeah, seriously. That's what we're going to remember Jessica Chastain for. Yes, absolutely. So let's just start with Will Smith against Chris Rock, because that's the number one story that transcends this podcast, transcends movies, transcends the Oscars. It's the number one story in the world today. Oz knows a little bit about my day, but I borrowed my parents' car to come back to Queens, and I drove it back today and to where they live in Long Island, and stopped to get them bagels. And what's the number one story at the bagel store? Then what's the number one story at 7-Eleven when I went to get a Red Bull? What's the number one story on the subway? And we start with what happened. So Will Smith,
even sports talk radio.
Oh yeah.
When I drove my kids to school this morning, they were talking about Chris Rock skits from 20 years ago, dunking on Wild Wild West.
Yep. And see, there's a context here, which I'm glad that we brought up, that I'll get to in a second. Though, what happened? So Will Smith, a person that I've made it known many times that I'm a big fan of, that I'm in the camp of stan for Will Smith. He was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor, was the front runner going into last night. A lot of people, both of us included, picked him to win and thought he was going to win an Oscar last night at the awards for his performance in King Richard as Richard Williams. About an hour and a half, 2 hours into the show. In fact, no, 2.5 hours.
I was going to say like 5 hours into the show.
Yeah, I lost track at a certain point. About 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, Chris Rock comes out to give out the award for Best Documentary, and he's doing crowd work. And he makes a joke at Javier Bardem's expense, which I actually found funny, even though he clearly forgot who Penelope Cruz's name is. He just kept calling her his wife, Javier Bardem's wife, which is ironic because both of us picked the better performance, and both of us picked her to win at the Oscars. So if anything, Chris Rock, do your research. He then turns to Will Smith and Jada and makes a G.I. Jane 2 joke at Jada's expense. Will looked like he initially was laughing. He then, of course, was not, because Jada wasn't. And then the camera cuts back to Chris Rock. And as he's ready to transition, then the crowd makes a reaction that something's happening. Will Smith then comes on stage. Everyone thinks it's a part of a bit that's about to happen. And he slaps Chris Rock in the face. I still thought that maybe this was part of the bit. Chris Rock responds with, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. And then what you hear from his seat is Will Smith yelling, "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth." He then repeats after Chris Rock says, "It was a G.I. Jane joke, dude." And he then repeats even angrier, and now with the crowd realizing this is real, "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth." And Chris Rock then complies, not without apparent. If you look at the video, hesitating that there's a clip he could unload if he wanted to about some jokes and maybe at Will and his wife's expense, but kept his cool. And thus we have, and appropriately, Chris Rock says that was the greatest moment in the history of live television, and it's definitely one of the most memorable ones. As So did it hit you the same way it hit me, in the sense that that order of events that you didn't know it was real until, holy shit, this is real? And what was your initial thoughts in the moment? Like, take me, like, we were in a group text throughout because of our Oscar pool. And how did it hit you as it was happening?
I, like most people, thought it was a bit at first, and that they got a little R-rated in it, and that's why the sound cut out. But then they had that close-up shot of Will Smith kind of from the side, and you could tell that was not a man yelling as part of the bit. That was a man who was genuinely angry. To be honest, I didn't quite understand what the extreme reaction came from, because he'd already, taken the brunt of a pretty rough joke earlier in the ceremony. And really, it was just kind of a bummer that this is what the Oscars are reduced to. I mean, I guess the upshot is, hey, the ratings are up, and we can attribute some of that to this shit show. And more people have talked about the Oscars on Twitter than ever before, and whatever else. But just a bummer. Like, that was supposed to be Will Smith's coronation. It was supposed to be kind of his big iconic moment, and it's forever going to be associated with this. I don't think it's crazy to say that there's a universe where, at the end of Will Smith's career, when all is written about him, that this is one of the 2 or 3 things that comes up first. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
The reaction just seems to be so extreme, and the spread of it so all encompassing, that I'm kind of bummed, because I don't stand Will Smith the way you do, but I think he's often quite a good actor. And I was happy that he was going to win this award, even if I would have picked differently with my own vote. Happy for him. I'm happy for him as sort of a career achievement award. And I am just sad that it all played out this way.
Yeah. The key word that I've been using over the last, at this point, 12, 15 hours since this happened, is disappointed. Not in him, though, which is a fascinating thing I'm trying to parse out myself, because, like, there's some context here that I'll go through in just a second, but I'm just, like, disappointed that he ruined his moment. Like, clearly knowing that he fucked up, and that this thing we all wanted, or at least that I really wanted, was to see Will Smith give an acceptance speech at the Oscars. And it was all tarnished because of something he did, and a way he reacted to something. That Questlove, like, that was also his moment.
Yep.
And he had it ruined by this incident. You could see Questlove was like, I'm giving an acceptance speech after that just happened. And, like, this was supposed to be the Coda Oscars. Like, they were I don't think Troy Koster's moment's ruined, but, like, this could have been, like, the night that Coda won and went 3 for 3 and won Best Picture. And, like, it was a really cool thing that everybody was doing the sign language applause. Like, they knew, because of the award race that they've been on, like, this is okay. We've been trained. This is how you applaud when you're with people when you're with the people that are deaf. And here you go. Like, this is a pretty great moment, and it's all overshadowed by the incident. And that's like the biggest takeaway I have.
The Kotzer one bums me out in particular, because he's obviously been my favorite performance of the year since last January. Mm-hmm. And one that it was frankly deeply moving for me to see someone win about as organically as someone can win an award anymore in this day and age of campaigning and everything else. I'm bummed about it. I'll say it's probably not the most extreme thing that's happened in Oscar history. It's up there.
Are you going to the
Brando
little feather? Yeah, little feather.
So when Marlon Brando won for The Godfather, he refused to go. Sent a representative of I think it's the Apache Nation. Yes. A woman named Shaseen Littlefeather, who went up to accept the award on his behalf. And I guess they needed like 6 cops to stop John Wayne from like attacking her or something like that.
Yep.
And Clint Eastwood was being a prick the entire time. So, there have been streakers at the Oscars. Obviously we had the envelope gate 3 years ago now. There have been a lot of these sort of moments, but it's hard to think of one where it probably has changed the public's perception of a star in quite the same way as this one did.
Well, so some context real quick. So Chris Rock, let me just go through some recent history. You mentioned him dunking on Wild Wild West. 2016 Oscars. He's the host. This is an infamous year because of the Oscars so white hashtag, in that all 20 of the nominees that year were white. Like, not even like, it wasn't even just like a white and black thing. There was no person of color, no minority represented in the nominees that year. And Chris Rock was hosting. And Jada Pinkett Smith, who her husband Will was up for a concussion he was campaigning for and didn't get nominated. And she was saying on behalf of the other performances, as well as obviously her husband's, Chris Rock should boycott. I'm not going to the Oscars. No person of color should go to the Oscars. We should boycott this year. And Chris Rock, the host, then in his monologue said, so Jada's boycotting the Oscars. That's like, isn't she on a TV show? Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited. How do you boycott something you're not invited to? And I remember the reaction. This is not in the infancy of Twitter, but this is like the infancy of my involvement in film Twitter. And the reaction was like, okay, Will Smith's there is a tweet going around today from 2016. Will Smith has to go punch Chris Rock in the face. That's the only solution. And it's one of those, there's always an old tweet that we used to do with Trump. And now, like, there's always an old tweet for this even. And like, it's a weird way of spin zoning this, but like, I've seen a lot of like, why was Will okay with Amy Schumer's jokes, with Wanda Sykes' jokes, with Regina Hall's like blatant joke about their open marriage? Why was he okay with that? I think the key word in his clap back to Chris Rock was your. Like, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. Like, you're not allowed to make these jokes. I'll get everybody else like to poke fun at me. That's part of the deal. I'm not letting you dunk on me again. And that's like the weird psychoanalysis that I've tried to do over the last 12 hours. I think this is very specifically a Will Smith, Chris Rock thing. And like, as a result, it doesn't excuse anything, but at least gives me understanding as to why Will might have snapped like that, you know?
Well, let's say you're right. And I'm not in a place to psychoanalyze Will Smith. I don't know. I don't know what's going through his mind. I mean, certainly we know generally that he's got one of the most carefully cultivated public personas of any star of our lifetime. And clearly not after last night. I will say that if that's true, and if there is a personal animus towards Chris Rock and all of that, then I feel like he should be even more aware of what may be coming and to sort of mentally steel himself that you're going to be really mad when this happens, but there's a time and a place to deal with it. I'm not even saying he shouldn't confront Chris Rock or anything like that. Like, there's a conversation to be had there that's probably not going to be very pleasant for Chris Rock. That I understand. I get that. The way it was handled is not.
Yeah.
That. There was an opportunity after the show backstage to have a few words with Chris Rock that might not have been very cheery and could have addressed the exact same sentiment without this happening the way it did. And if there is a long held beef there, and I don't know if there is or isn't, there's certainly enough jokes that we can construct it sitting at home. I think you got to steel yourself even more if you know that that's what you're facing. Yeah.
And that's, look, I want to make it clear as like the Will Smith stan of the pod. I'm not excusing anything. You can't do that. You just can't. And it's like this weird middle ground where I'm trying to, like, we've established this was wrong. I now need to find understanding as to why it happened. You know, can I tell you a story?
Yes, please.
So you're going to get to hear about high school Claudio first.
Ooh, good.
I'm pretty sure you figured out how sarcastic I can be sometimes and how I'm always looking for the joke.
Really?
Yes, Oz. I figured out very early in life that I would not be able to impress women with my looks. So I decided I was going to impress them with my humor. It's not come look at me. It's I'm going to make you laugh. And it's like Rosina can tell you, everything we do, I look for the joke. I'm always trying to make her laugh. And that's just been my personality for the longest time. And it for a while, as a kid, as a teenager in particular, that can lead to some smart ass behavior that I'm always looking for the joke, regardless of whose expense it's at. So I'm not going to say the person's real name. Let's call him Jimmy, one of my classmates. So Jimmy, let's say, I think it was 9th or 10th grade. There was a running joke throughout the boys in my school, in my private school in Long Island, which I should say that for some context. Jimmy and I were the only two minorities, and he's black and I'm an all of the above mix here. So it's like a white school basically. And he's this running joke that we all put Jimmy's mom in everything. So like every your mama jokes it's not just the your mama, it's Jimmy's mom. And he just seemed to roll with the punches. He like was a good sport about it. It was like, haha. And the ones that hit, he like chuckled at, but he'd roll his eyes and just kind of never let it affect him. So one day in class, he answers a question. And I want to say it wasn't even like a harsh joke. It was one of the more harmless, your mom would be proud type of things. And he apparently like had the last straw and he backhanded me. I was sitting behind him and he smacked me up across my face. And I was like shell shocked in the moment. And the teacher was shell shocked too. And he was like, stop fucking talking about my mom. I'm sick of this shit. And this is like private Christian school. So obviously he was going to get in a lot of trouble. We both get sent to the principal's office. I get detention for what I said. He gets detention and suspended for what he said and did. And in that moment, I actually got to talk to him. Apparently his dad had just left and he was going through all of these things outside of school that he just like did not care what any of us said. And there was like a moment of empathy that I all of a sudden had to be like, damn, I've been making jokes about this dude for months and I had no idea what was really going on. And like, should he have reacted that way? No. Did the Jimmy's mom bit end right there? Absolutely. No one made a joke at that dude's expense for the rest of the year. And the ironic part is like, he's one of my best friends to this day. Like we bonded over that incident. And like when I eventually have a wedding one day, he will be in it. And I think a fascinating element of this incident with Will Smith and Chris Rock is that they're on these different levels of celebrity and of stature. And in one moment last night, it's the most relatable human thing that I've ever had to Will Smith and Chris Rock. I understand both perspectives that they're coming from. I understand Chris Rock's of like, I was just saying a joke, dude. Like, what are you doing? And I understand Will's of like, I've fucking had it. I'm not using ration to guide me right now. This is the last time. And it's just where I come away from this being a little more understanding, but not at all condoning the behavior. Like he obviously, whatever repercussions are coming are going to have to come. But I think it's just, maybe it's just in my nature to try to find the understanding part. And there's enough here that if he's just like had it and he snapped, it's enough for me to like not justify, but at least explain why we had the incident that we had last night.
I think all that makes sense. I mean, I don't think it's just like a random act of violence or something like that. Clearly, there's a lot that goes into how you end up making that choice. And clearly, he was under an immense amount of pressure. He's certainly aware that this is his crowning career achievement award. And there's a tension when you're sitting in that room waiting to see if the thing, and he's been open about this. He is campaigning to win this Oscar. The book came out in part as an effort to win this Oscar. The PR campaign with Jada from about a year ago was all part of the buildup to trying to win this Oscar. And in those last moments where it's basically 11:59 on the doomsday clock of if he's going to win this thing or not, you push the wrong button and you got an unexpected reaction. I will say what's come to light is that the Academy itself, or really the writers who did this, are responsible for this joke and a lot of other genuinely nasty jokes that I think there's an element of some of it that's funny. And certainly I appreciate when they're, for example, dunking on Being the Ricardos, which I detested. but there's a real we hate movies element to the entire show last night. That last duel joke was the most inappropriate, nasty toned thing of the entire, especially because that wasn't even a bad movie. Like if it was a movie that was like 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, leaving aside my love for it, if that was like a piece of shit, fine. But that was a movie that was adored. It's exactly the sort of thing that we should be crossing our fingers we ever get to see made again. And they're there just crushing it. I mean, Nightmare Alley has the exact same story. They may as well have just had a Nightmare Alley fake screener disc in their hands when they made that joke. But I think that nastiness kind of filters through. And if there's a single place that blame should most rest, it's on the people who made this show, because they went for idiotic shock jock moments time and time again to try to get Twitter heat. Congrats, guys. You did it. You got your Twitter heat. You're up 30% in the ratings year over year, even 50%, depending on which metrics you look at. So good job. Congratulations.
So I felt you cringing through the group text and more, not cringing, but fuming through the group text at the last duel joke. And I want to transition to the ceremony in just a second, but I just want to say one thing. My two least favorite words from it's like my reaction to the reaction today. I'm fine if you guys want to get your takes off. Like everybody is going to we're literally doing a podcast, getting our takes off. My two least favorite words have been what if. Like, what if The Rock was hosting? What if he slapped one of the female hosts? What if a white actor had hit Chris Rock? What if good Lord, Judd Apatow. What if Chris Rock had died because of this? How about this? Like,
the Betty White one was the real doozy of it all.
Well, the Betty White one is the best, but like, can we just play Mad Libs for a second? Will Smith hit Chris Rock at the Oscars. This is a once in a lifetime, never gonna happen. All of the outcomes in the universe, Doctor Strange event happened. This is something that isn't like a normal mundane event that you can apply what if or hypotheticals. All of that, and look, you're right when you said in the beginning, you or I are not qualified to like break down the complexities of the racial aspect of this or the cultural differences in the takes. All I will say is like, it is fascinating to see who's trying to apply empathy and understanding and who's going straight to call the cops. You know, that's all I'll say on that. I just like, this is not something you can really group all of these like umbrella situations to be like, we have to make sure this, like, I am empathetic to the comedian community that's like, we can't allow this as a precedent that you could just go up on stage. But I think that leads us to the overall bigger story in our little bubble of the film world. Why does the stage look like that? Why was it so easy for anybody to just walk up on stage? And it's part of a very small detail as part of, and I think you'll agree with me, the worst Oscars that I think have ever happened. Not in awards or like awards they gave out or anything like that. And last year like had its flaws, but like outside of the Troy Kotsur moment and like some of the bits, like this is one of the worst ceremonies I've ever watched and just one of the worst experiences. Like I was not enjoying myself when the Will Chris Rock thing happened. And then all of a sudden it just became that afterwards. And I like it's so very appropriate that these Oscars that did everything they could to try and attract the bigger audience, like you were saying. And the thing that went viral was unplanned and unscripted. They deserve this to be this Oscars legacy.
I got to tell you, I love the Oscars. I've always loved the Oscars. I've tried to see every nominee for, frankly, like nearly 30 years now.
You were killing yourself to watch this year. And like when you were telling me like, yeah, I'm trying to get as many as I can because I have a streak going. It's like, wow, this is impressive. Keep it going.
I got my 53 out of 53. I had to grind out some shorts and that dreadful Mila Kunis movie, The Morning of the Oscars. But I got my complete set in. Again, I'm the person who cares the most about this. And I am just offended as a viewer, leaving Will Smith out of this entirely for now. I'm offended by this entire show, everything about it. And I appreciate all the ways it blew up in their face and all the ways they deserve that. I can't even get into the Flash Speed Force thing because that's just the dumbest pandering on earth to like
Zack Snyder was honored twice at the Oscars last night.
The worst part though, everyone knew what would happen. They had this voting thing and everybody knew what was going to happen, that the crazy people on the internet were going to fuck it up and we were going to get some sort of mess, because they did, for those that don't know, essentially an audience selection award based on Twitter votes. And if you've ever spent any time on Twitter, you can imagine how that might turn out. So 5th place, a wonderful selection, tick, tick, boom. 4th place, a movie that they wanted to win, Spider-Man No Way Home. 3rd place, Minimata, which is a movie that hasn't actually been released in the US yet. And it was only voted for because the shitty people who think that Johnny Depp like didn't abuse Amber Heard, or think that because there's some mutual stuff in there that he's absolved. Number one, to all those people, fuck off.
Yeah, go
Number 2, good Lord, is it embarrassing to honor that Johnny Depp swill, the same Johnny Depp who's too drunk and high on set most days that he needs to have an earpiece so people can read his lines to him, so he can regurgitate them back out because he doesn't bother to look at the scripts for the work that he does anymore. That gets honored. Then the god awful Billy Porter Cinderella gets honored, which was like film Twitter's like effort to troll this thing. And then Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, which is just a fucking, oh my God, it's like a 2 hour. Isn't it like 2.5 hours? It is a grind
slog,
of a movie that nobody cared about when it came out, but all of his crazed fans went and voted for because they were like sad that the fucking Snyder cut wasn't eligible for this stupid ass award. This sad pandering to people who are never, ever, ever going to watch the show in the first place. And in the process, you're pushing me away. You're pushing you, Andrew, away. I don't want to. I can't turn it off. I don't want to watch this shit next year. Like, I don't want to come back. I wish that I had the like mental strength to just check the results the next morning. Like, see what the nominees are, because the nominees have been good. Skip out on the ceremony and see what it looks like the next morning. I don't have that strength, but I'm everything about it. The set design was terrible. Oh my God, Bruno.
Oh my God, they talked about Bruno and I wish they didn't. Oh my gosh.
They promised us, they marketed the hell out of it, that they were going to do the first live presentation of We Don't Talk About Bruno. That's awesome. Like, I let my son stay up to watch the first live presentation of We Don't Talk About Bruno. And like, all love to Megan Thee Stallion and everybody else involved in that thing who's talented outside of it. That song was not We Don't Talk About Bruno. It was some like bastard amalgamation that someone came up in the comedy sketch writer's room, and it was terrible. It was embarrassing. And you're just undercutting what people actually wanted to see. One of the only things about this weird Disney propaganda commercial of a show that people were excited about was to see the live performance of We Don't Talk About Bruno, and you don't even give us that. Fuck this. Fuck the Oscars. Fuck this ceremony.
Well, so you're hinting at, well, not hinting at, but like you're hitting on the significantly more frustrating part, I think, for both of us, is that all these things happen, the countdown to Snyder twice and the We Don't Talk About Bruno, in spite of 8 awards being announced live during the telecast. For an award show that went 20 minutes longer than last year, we had 8 awards given out on Twitter an hour before the show. And you texted us last night, like, we knew 8 winners at 8 p.m. Eastern. And it's 9:15, and we know
7:33 p.m. is when the Eastern is when the last result came out.
But I'm saying, like, at the start of the show, like, we knew 8 winners. And then, what was it, 9:15? We knew 11. And like, I'm trying to think of a programming decision that worked. The zoomed in camera angle for the acceptance speeches I didn't like, because I didn't like get to see the award.
They almost missed Kotzer's hands. Like, they almost zoomed in on his face so you couldn't see his hands when they were lower. It was crazy.
Yeah, which, like, if the whole point of this was to pay more attention to like people, the hard of hearing or lack of hearing community, then you probably need to have the sign language as part of the telecast and part of the speech. Like the getting together reunions of the old movies and like the Juno reunion and the Pulp Fiction reunion. They worked, but like, why is Diddy introducing The Godfather? Why is Tony Hawk and Kelly Slater and Shaun White introducing James Bond? Like, it just, every programming decision they made, as well as the construction of the like you mentioned, the stage being level with the ground, which led to the event that everybody's going to talk about from this Oscars forever. And look, like, I actually didn't think Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer, and Regina Hall were bad. I just, like, at a certain point, why was there three? Like, I felt like they opened with a 3-person monologue. Then they went up to introduce the DJ. Then Amy Schumer comes out and does a monologue. And it almost felt like we weren't moving. Like, the show wasn't like in a continuous stream. Like, you want that. It's like a road trip that you're on with the show, not this stop and start destination in the programming. Yeah. I can't think of a thing programming wise that worked for me last night.
I think what you say about the sort of roadmap and the start and stop nature, I think it's really capturing something that I'm not sure I'd quite crystallize in my own mind how to convey. I think all three of them actually did a pretty good job. I think Sykes was who I think is wonderful in general. I thought she was easily the most out of place of the three of them, because Schumer has a little bit of edge and nastiness to her, which fit the tone of the show. And I think she's great. I thought she had some really funny quips in there. I thought, and I know that this is, I don't know, people on Twitter seemed offended by it. I thought the Regina Hall bit with all the hot guys was pretty hilarious.
I did until she like was legit feeling up Thanos.
Momoa and Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos, Aquaman and Thanos. When Josh Brolin, star of Labor Day, turned around and like spread him, and it was like, this is, you want to talk about assault from last night. This is actually like uncomfortable. What's going on right now?
Everyone knew it was going on.
Come on me, but like,
I thought it was pretty funny. But
I laughed up until that point where I was like, all right, this bit has gone too far.
Here's the problem. Whether you think it's reasonably successful as a bit, as I do, or that it careened off the tracks as you do, why the fuck are we spending time on that at all? Like, why can't I watch Hans Zimmer win his second Oscar? Why can't I watch Riz Ahmed, an actor I love, win an Oscar? Like, why can't I have the drama of the moment of seeing him react? I had to watch like YouTube, not even YouTube, like cell phone video clips to see the actual things that people said in their speeches from the early awards, because they didn't show them. They showed weird, bastardized, truncated versions of the speeches selected by, I don't know, the editors at ABC for what would be out there. And in an even weirder thing, they're doing some like erasure of the like official things. The transcripts that they released to the media of the speeches are the edited versions that they aired on ABC, not even the actual speeches. And there's nothing to avoid. It's not even like anyone went up there and was like, fuck the Oscars for putting us on the pre-show, which a lot of them should have. Nobody did that. I mean, Hans Zimmer just didn't show up, so props to him. But it's crazy to me, the disrespect for film that the award show that's supposed to be about film has. So congrats, guys. You've become the Grammys. Good job.
Yeah, that's the biggest takeaway I have, actually, is that this felt like one of like an MTV Movie Awards thing with the performances, with the bits, the montages, which like, I like that as part of my Oscar ceremony, which is why I like,
they weren't even good.
Like, that's the thing. They have to be a little bit more thought out and planned out. And this just, a lot of it seemed like we didn't rehearse this to see or test this on people, where this is the first time all of these things are being done, you know?
I'm lost at why they didn't get all the living Bonds to come out on stage instead of having a shitty monologue. Like, why not have Rami Malek, who later introduced the Bond song, introduce all of the Bonds who come out on stage, wave to the crowd, and then they introduce Billie Eilish and Phineas to play the No Time to Die song. Boy, not only did I just make your show better, I just saved you like 6 minutes of time. Also, this is not hard. Like, if you could get Francis Ford Coppola and Robert De Niro and Al Pacino to show up, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that Timothy Dalton and George Lazenby will hop on an airplane to fly out to LA to go to the Oscars. Come on. Like, just what a joke.
I even thought I thought there might be onto something with the shortened speeches that we saw, because I even wondered, like, if they recorded the ceremony beforehand, like recorded that hour where they gave out the other awards and just posted them on a YouTube channel, that's how people consume these things now. And I could almost forgive it if I got to see the full speeches not live. Like, it sucks, but if there is a way for me to take it in, fine. But that doesn't exist either. Like, none of these are on the YouTube channel. None of these are posted in a way that people consume media now. So, and like, this is, again, I just saw my family. We can transition into like things we liked after this, but like this whole thing, the messing with the formula, was an effort to bring in younger casual movie fans and casual viewers that might want to. And I just saw my family. So it's my parents and my younger brother, who's 21. My brother did not watch and did not even know about the Will Smith incident. And like, I showed it to him while we were having breakfast. My parents were watching Picard on Paramount Plus when my mom was scrolling Twitter and was like, "Are you watching this, Andrew?" Like, saw my tweets and my memes about it. And then he texted me. Then they texted me. It was like, "What happened at the Oscars?" And I sent them the Australia feed. And then they watched the last 45 minutes of the Oscars. Movies they have not seen this year, but they were like, "I want to see what Will Smith says now if he wins." Like, all of these changes didn't even work. They didn't get any new audience, which is weird that they are able to now spin the bump that they got from everybody tuning into seeing Will Smith's speech as an uptick in viewers. But man, like, as far as my little bubble of like the Gen X and the boomer Gen Z and the boomer generation did not take in this event, that's like a huge indictment on the ceremony as a whole.
I got to tell you, it is an egregious lie to say that the ratings are up in the way that they're going to present it. Leaving aside the Will Smith of it all, let's pretend that even if that hadn't happened before the end of it, there are all sorts of ways, and eventually we'll get the specific breakdowns of the hours and be able to figure out exactly what the Smith bump was. But let's say about 15 million watched it, up from the 9.8 million that watched it live last year when nobody saw any movies because of the pandemic and nobody had even heard of anything that was nominated. At least people have heard of a few things this year. In 2020, so for movies that came out in 2019, the Oscars did an all-time low, the record horrible of ever, at 23.6 million. So 10 million more than the initial reports, maybe 8 million more, depending on which number you go with. The year before that, 29.6 million. The death spiral hasn't stopped. If anything, last night was a dead cat bounce on a ceremony that needs to profoundly change if it's ever going to have relevance ever again. But I think the takeaway from last night, most of us are going to come back, the awards obsessives and everything, they're going to start bleeding away. Like the people who are a little less crazy than me, but still like to follow the Oscars, like to see what matters, they're going to leave next year because this was a deeply unpleasant ceremony.
So as someone that, do you not like the changes that have been made to baseball over the past couple of years? I know you and I are big baseball fans, but like, do you like that? Not the style of play, because like we can argue about the savor of it all for hours. We have argued about the savor of it all for hours, but like the extra inning rule and the 7-inning doubleheaders and the universal DH and the clear shifts that they're trying to make in changes to the game. Like, I almost get the sense that they're being made, like, I actually don't mind half of them, but they're being made with the intention to bring in, similar to what the Oscars is doing, bring in people that we're never going to watch baseball anyway, you know? And it's the hardcore baseball fan that they're spitting in the face of. And I almost equate that to what's going on at the Oscars. It'd be like but this is even more of an extreme, because this would be like if you put on the World Series, an event that people all like at the most people are going to watch as far as a baseball game is the World Series. And they like don't show you the first 4 innings, you know,
it would be like if opening day, you can only follow it on Twitter.
Yeah. But like, that's the thing that they do with like the game is on Facebook today. And it's like, who's Facebook in 2021? Like, what are we doing? And like, those are the different things that the Oscars are experimenting with that I don't see. Like, what was the plan to get more people to come in last night by polling Twitter, but like bringing it? Do you think the Snyderverse tuned in to see if it won, or did they were just like, oh, well, we were able to infect this ceremony. Look at our power. That's the
Snyderverse didn't even tune in to watch the Snyder cut.
That's also true. Like, that's the thing I said to you last night. A movie not released in theaters won for best cheer moment. Yeah, that is a thing that happened last night. Like, is that a fair equivalent though? Like the baseball nitpicking that's been done over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's a sensible way to think of things. They're also neither is willing to make the extreme moves that might actually make a difference. Like if baseball put in an extreme pitch clock, banned all, basically made it so that baseball had the equivalent of a clock. And you knew that a game would be done in like 2 hours and 40 minutes, which they could force. No pitching changes or any pitching changes, like a 60-second time limit, no stepping out of the box or else it's an automatic ball. There are all sorts of things they could do to increase the pace of play that they don't do. Here's what the Oscars can do. Here's my solution. And this is extreme, but it's going to recognize a reality here, which is that viewers don't give a shit about who wins best cinematography. They just don't. I think those people should be recognized. I think those things are important. I care immensely about who wins best sound. It actually means something to me. But the average person doesn't. Not even the average person. Like the hardcore film goer doesn't care who wins best sound or best live action short or anything like that. Make it 2 nights. One night, air them back to back. One night, you do all the tech categories, all the below the line categories, and the main night, and we can totally be honest about it. There's going to be a Saturday ceremony and a Sunday ceremony. And maybe the Saturday ceremony will have a few less stars at it. Who cares? We're going to let those people talk for as long as they want, say whatever they want on the microphone. No one's going to play them off. And I can watch my like weird French editors talk about like their craft for as long as can amuse me. And then on Sunday, we do the Big 8 awards. So actually we'll throw song in there because that usually has some stars, but we'll do director, picture, actor, actress, supporting actress, original and adapted screenplay, and best song. And we'll do 9 awards. We will lock this thing at like 2.5 hours in length. We can have lots of celebrities show up. We can do the in memoriam only with no
we didn't even talk about that. Oh my God.
Ghastly fucking dancing. Like, why on earth are you showing me a dance routine when I want to see the people whose careers or why I show up to watch movies? Ridiculous. But do the in memoriam, do a little joke bit at the beginning of it. Don't talk about Jada Pinkett-Smith in the joke bit. And we've now fixed it. We have a 2.5 hour show that appeals to the mass audience. And then we have a hardcore show the night before. Frankly, it's what WWE is doing with WrestleMania. They're having a 2-night thing with the more like casual friendly stuff is going to be on Sunday. The more like hardcore fan stuff is going to be on Saturday. That's fine. Like more people are going to watch on Sunday and there's plenty of stuff for people to watch on Saturday. My kid will be sitting in front of the TV for, 9 hours over 2 nights this weekend watching WrestleMania. Great. That's what they should do here. If this is the way they're going to treat it, just embrace reality, bifurcate the shows, give us an A show and a B show. Sucks to have to think that way. But if they're going to treat the other awards, not even as a B show, but as like not on the show, what's lost? I don't see what's lost.
I've been wondering why they don't go to 2 nights. And like there was a thing that happened. It was a governor's award, right? On Saturday night where they gave out honorary Oscars.
Denzel gave Samuel L. Jackson a Life Achievement Award. And we didn't get to see it.
I saw it through cell phone footage. Like, why was that not televised? And that was like everybody dunking on it was like, yes, because this is not something people would have wanted to see on the telecast. Have that on Saturday night as part of your Oscar night 1. And then night 2, you flash back to it. Like, have an honorary Oscar on both nights.
Andrew, you got a 45-second clip from Army of the Dead last night instead of seeing Samuel L. Jackson have the biggest moment of his career. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
It was a 45-second clip that in reality was like 20 seconds because it was Snyder, though. It was in slow motion, so it ended up being 45 seconds. Don't slap me, Zack Snyder. Having said all of this, can we talk about anything we liked about last night? You hinted at the Troy Kotzer speech. So let's just man to man real quick. Did you cry?
Yes. No question about it. Everything about it was perfect. I thought that Yoon Yoo Jung, the the grandma from Minari was perfect in the way that she set it up. I think she had just the right emotion. I think she was trying to sign his name at the end there and clearly did the I love you as well. I thought he absolutely nailed it. Now, he's been killing it at the speech game all along. He's just incredibly expressive and clearly just an incredibly funny guy. But it also seems like everyone who's ever met him loves him. There's a video from the theater, the deaf theater that he's worked at for however many years, of all of the alumni like saying how much they adore him, which also brought a little dust into the old room for me. I love Troy Kotsur. I'm so happy he won. I'm so happy he gave that speech, which was fantastic. I just think that guy's the absolute best. You know what? Let me say one nice thing. They didn't play off the major awards. Aside from Hamaguchi, which was, I just think, downright racist in the way they played off Drive My Car.
Yes. Okay, finish it. I have a counter, but it's not even that much of a defense.
Are you? Well, it's the second time I get it because he held up the trophy and it seemed like he was ending the speech, but the first time.
The first time, doesn't he say thank you very much? Which in their, like, the crowd applauds. I don't know that's what the end of this. So
I know that's how it came from him. But I also know that that's someone who's clearly not a native English speaker and clearly not overwhelmingly comfortable in English, in that he had a translator standing next to him taking notes of everything he said in case he needed help during the speech, which is fine. There's no shade in that. But to see that she's there to help him and not give him a moment to make sure that he's managed to compose and get out his thoughts is a choice.
Yeah, but wasn't the band behind him?
Wasn't the band behind him? What do you mean?
So the band that played him off, basically, they're behind him, so they can't see what she's doing. And so if I remember, it's
all on monitors. They don't get a pass for not being able to see it. There's a giant. They're under the stage, I think, and there's a giant screen, which is how they pace out what they're doing.
That's a good correction then. So then I guess the way I saw it was super awkward. Don't get me wrong, but like, he says, thank you very much. They start playing and he's like, wait. And then he gives the same speech in his native language. So they were like, oh shit. Like, we thought you were done. We didn't realize this was coming, and didn't play him off. And then they like played him off early, but they didn't realize that like there was more, a different version of it wasn't coming. No, which the second one is when I was more frustrated, for sure.
He had two elements to it. I don't think it's much more of a, here's part one and part two. And I get it the second time because he raised the trophy up in the air. That's like a universal sign of my speech is done. So it's fine. I'm just frustrated about that because that guy's awesome. He made a hell of a film, and that's his moment. But it's also, it's not just that anyone who's been following this at all knows that was the big moment for a movie that was nominated, not just in Best Foreign Film, but in Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. So this is a movie that was nominated in all the biggest categories, and this was their moment. You shouldn't be rushing that one at all. That one should get as much time as it wants. But
I agree.
To be fair,
I thought they were just like, I thought it was more the awkwardness, not, I guess I didn't see the intentional part of them playing off, which is like, again,
they don't get a pass for incompetence. Like
100% on the incompetence. I agree. They don't get a pass. I just like, I didn't think they were intentionally, regardless. I don't think it even matters if they were intentionally doing it. They were incompetent. You're right. So what else did you like? I thought
Chastain gave a nice speech. I didn't care for that film or that role very much. I love her. I think she's usually one of the very best actresses alive. Didn't love that one, but whatever. I'm happy for her. She gave a really good speech. I thought that I will not be negative anymore. I thought that Sean Hayter's speech for winning for screenplay for Coda was quite lovely. And honestly, there weren't many other speeches because everything happened on the pre-show. I did not think the Coda Best Picture speech was very good from the producers. I wish they had let Sean Hayter handle that one too. Campion, I guess she's got to be scripted now after the Williams sister thing, but that was not a banner speech. DeBose was I thought she was fine. Kind of the plucky, over-rehearsed theater kid thing she's been doing all campaign season. I will say, I thought the Branagh moment was kind of nice. I'm not happy that movie won for screenplay of all things. Frankly,
Yeah, PTA is now 0 for 9, like you said on the prediction show.
0 for 11, I think.
0 for 11. Whoa.
Yeah,
okay.
Counting picture nominations and everything else.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I will say that, Belfast was not my favorite of the screenplays this year, but I thought he gave a nice speech and it seemed like people were genuinely happy for him. And he's someone who's worked with an awful lot of folks in the industry over the years. So good for Branagh, but otherwise rough times.
What I liked. So I'm with you on the Troy Kotsur moment. Coda winning Best Picture. Just the fact that happened is great. Especially just the tone in which people have been talking about this movie and dismissing it. And like, do I think it's the most well-made movie and like is peak cinema? Like, first of all, who cares? Like there's all of these family dramas from like the 80s that get brought up. Like, what's the difference between Coda and like Ordinary People or Kramer versus Kramer? Like, we have told stories about American families over and over again. This one happened to be a very unique version with a lot of heart that really touched people this year. So like, go ahead, go stare at the mountains if you want to. And like, that's the thing. We haven't really talked about Power of the Dog. I thought that movie was extremely well made. I got it. And I just like never want to watch it again. Like that. I don't want that to be my Best Picture winner. And there's too many, I think, as Best Picture winners. Although acknowledging, I think it's the better made film. I'm very okay with Coda being the representative of this year in movies,
It's a weird thing that's happened. And I think it's because of the nastiness of some critics and the way that like film Twitter operates, that you get likes when you say extreme and pretentious things, and likes feel good. And look, I think Power of the Dog is an excellent film. Like you, I didn't quite adore it. I do want to revisit it. Obviously, I got it, but I do think there's a lot of nuance to it that will benefit from repeat viewings. It might go down as the best movie of the year when we have 20 years of perspective on it. But I don't think it's a bad thing at all for the movie that moved not just me, but a great many people more than any other this year. And that's Coda. Like, let me be clear. I think Licorice Pizza is a better made movie than Coda. I don't think it's very close. But Licorice Pizza didn't move me the way Coda did. Licorice Pizza didn't tap into something that I think, and maybe it's manipulation and I'm a sap, but whatever. I was deeply moved by Coda. I think that I've said it before. I'm sure I'll say it again. The scene in the pickup truck at the end of the movie is between Kotsur and Emilia Jones is the most moving thing that I saw in a movie, not just last year, but in years. So I'm pretty fucking happy that a movie that made me feel feelings won the Oscar this year. Like, the travesty would have been if something like, I don't know, King Richard, which I know you liked more than I did, but it's just like a stock sports movie.
That's not a Best Picture winner.
Or like Don't Look Up, which became such like a nasty political football. Like, if something like those things won, that's where it's a bummer. Like the people comparing this to Green Book are fucking idiots and disingenuous sacks of garbage. Man, each of them. This is like, at worst, this is like a kind-hearted, decent, like lovable movie at worst. And Green Book is not. The problems with Green Book are not that. Like, the people talking about Crash and things like that compared to Coda are all disingenuous fucks, and they can all screw off. But yeah, I just got to get all this off my chest.
Get it out, man. Believe me, get it out.
Yeah. Coda talk. But I think Coda is a good winner. I think it's a positive thing for the industry. I think it's good that all of those actors will have better careers after this. Like, it's not going to be so out of place when like Troy Kotsur shows up in like, I don't know, a David O. Russell movie in 2 years or something like that, or Paul Thomas Anderson movie in 2 years. Like, put on the poster, Academy Award winner Troy Kotsur. That's pretty fucking cool. And I know he's got a movie coming up that he's the lead in. He's the coach of a deaf track team. That's already positive progress. Because that guy had done like nothing other than stage work and like playing a Tusken Raider in The Mandalorian for the last decade. And now he's out the lead in a movie, and it's only going to get better from here. That's great. Like, Emilia Jones has like, I think going to have a rocket up her ass at superstardom now. I I think it is very good that Coda won this award. I'm happy about it. And may film Twitter fuck off.
Yes. May film Twitter fuck off. Sean Hayter too. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next. The reunited casts, while they seemed like out of place in how they were the Diddy introducing the Godfather thing, I'll never know. I'll never understand why that happened. Like,
why didn't Spielberg do it?
Thank you. Like, Steven Spielberg's
right there,
and he didn't do a thing except sit there all night. Why is he not introducing the Godfather?
They've been buddies for 50 fucking years, 60 years. Why? Like, George Lucas could come on down to introduce Coppola, because they've been best friends for forever. Come on.
Like, I did enjoy seeing, and look, it's just like very self-involved, but some of the movies that we've talked about on Final Review have come up, and seeing the Pulp Fiction cast show up. And it's funny, when they did the Marcellus Wallace's briefcase bit, I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of interested. What's inside? The pit in my stomach when they pulled out the Best Actor envelope was like, oh, this is going to be that moment. Okay.
I thought that was kind of cute. I figured that's what they were going to do.
Cute,
I thought it was cute.
It adds, I think, to the disappointment in the night that's so much more like of a coronation, that what was inside Marcellus Wallace's briefcase is the thing that's going to give Will Smith an Oscar. And if it happens 20 minutes earlier,
I know.
It means something completely different. Look, again, I'm Sap, and I'm in the guy's camp, and I do think what he did was wrong, and half the takes I don't necessarily disagree with, but like, I did get choked up watching Will Smith get choked up at an Oscar. And like, that's the most complicated part about this, is that even after an inexcusable action, I still wanted to see the guy win an Oscar, and I still wanted to see the guy give an acceptance speech. And the complexities aside, I'm still able to be happy for him while acknowledging that's not at all what we're going to remember these Oscars for. Like, that he won his Oscar and gave a very emotional speech, you know? The last thing that I think, I will say this. I mentioned the hosts. In a vacuum, I liked all three of them. Like, I liked Regina Hall and the job she did, Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes. I didn't like the fact that all three of them were there. I would have been okay with like a host, you know, that kind of a quarterback, a driver of the car, rather than them taking turns driving the car. But like, listen, I don't want to be like disrespectful, but I've just like never found Amy Schumer all that funny, and she was really funny last night. So that I think is the other thing. And I think the last big thing that I enjoyed was that, once again, in our Oscar pool, we lost. Oz. And why did I lose? I lost by one award, because I got convinced on our pod that Penelope Cruz was going to win Best Actress. And lo and behold, I switched the only thing I was convinced that I switched from our pod was Penelope Cruz for Best Actress. And I lost by one. In our Oscar,
you lost yourself that tie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I wonder why I was so good. Now, I will say this to defend you, because you were you defend things by trade, and like you hopped on the Penelope Cruz bandwagon at plus 3,300, and on Oscar morning it was plus 250. It was like, all right, these odds are doing a thing that you just kind of have to see where the movement's going. And like, this might just add on to just a frustrating part about the Oscars. They were very predictable. All of the favorites won. Even Coda was minus 160 by the time Best Picture was announced. But at least going into the night, I should say, it was minus 160. But yeah, as far as our picks go, I beat you, but it was by one. And yeah, we both lost our Oscar pool to your wife, and to John Mackey's wife.
I will say that my wife, I think, got like a 6 out of 23 last year. Maybe it was a 7. So she came back strong with the, I don't know, what was it, like a 20 this year was the winning?
19. I had 18. She had 19. Yeah.
She pulled a 19 and Dolores pulled a 19. So props to them for beating us again. Dolores, 19 out of 20 outside of the shorts, 0 for 3 on the shorts.
Wow,
there's a reason she wins our pool every year.
I will say, like, I got one award wrong during the live broadcast. One award wrong, and it was the best actress. So during the live broadcast, the 8 in the beginning, I went 4 for 8, and then I got one wrong during the live broadcast. Regardless, that will still exist. The Oscar pool will still exist. Whether I actually care about the awards that decide, I might just treat it like fantasy football, where I set my lineup and then I like go off and that's I think the biggest worry about.
That's a bummer way to think of it. That makes a lot of sense.
Is that we just like do Oscar pools and then just tell me if I won the next day or tell me if I won on Monday at work, the
one last positive thing I'll say, I've crushed this person all season because I really didn't like her movie. I think that Lady Gaga was put in an incredibly difficult situation at the end there. Like Liza Minnelli is a legend, but probably should not have been put in that situation. And I think that Lady Gaga showed genuine empathy and care in the way I think a hot mic picked up her leaning in and whispering, I got you. I got you through this. That I thought was really nice, and props to her. Cause it does seem like I don't like her accent in House of Gucci, but it does seem like she's a lovely person. And I thought that was, a little grace note of positivity to end a misery dirge of a ceremony on.
Yeah. I think much like you, I was just very uncomfortable during that entire Best Picture announcement, and she made it less uncomfortable, which is a good on her. Last thing before we get out of here, I don't say resolved because I just don't know. This incident's going to be in a take cycle for a while. I'm already kind of exhausted, but this is up there for like biggest thing that's happened that doesn't matter in a long time. Like I put as far like the Kanye Taylor Swift.
I was thinking the Kanye Taylor Swift thing is that it's what it's the closest to.
Yeah, because like the take cycle came out. The difference there is like there's no defense for what Kanye did. And at least there's understanding if you want to go down that road of like how Chris Rock has like lit the fire that led to Will eventually snapping. There was no like Kanye was just being a jackass in that moment, as Obama called it. So I thought about the Star is Born Bradley Cooper peeing himself scene as like, oh my God, it happened. It really happened. Another one I thought of, the wardrobe malfunction at the Super Bowl. Cause like, that's an event
that's up there
that transcends the world in which it happened in. Like that all of a sudden became bigger than the game going on. And this suddenly the fucking LAPD was contacted as a result of this. Really? It again, 2 Americas. Anyway, how do you see this all getting like, what's the next thing that happens that involves Will Smith and Chris Rock as far as like, is there a world where in a way to move on from this, they're presenting together next year or they're hosting next year? Or they're giving out Best Picture.
Will is clearly not going to present next year. It's a fun joke that's been going around on Twitter, but he's obviously not going to do that. I do think that there's a chance that they present together next year or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they're both on like Oprah or something like that.
It's a good call, Oprah.
To hash it out at some point in the next couple of months. I think we'll get a little apology cycle out of it, and then everyone will move on. And I think that this apology cycle will, not to be cynical about it, be rather well timed to the release of Will's next movie. So,
well, okay. You want to talk about some timing? The conspiracy of Is This Real? So Chris Rock's about to go on tour for his next special. And you mentioned Will has like the movie Emancipation coming out next year. And like Red Table Talk is a thing, like they could literally just go on live on Facebook tomorrow and talk about what just happened. I don't know. There's the all publicity is like Chris Rock does have a year's worth of material now from his jokes. I'm not saying at all last night was staged. I'm just like, as a transition, well, I mean, you do have something to move on to if you'd like. I guess the overall question I had, which we answered, was like, when's the next time we see Chris Rock and Will Smith publicly? And I think you nailed it. If it's together, it's going to be at the Oscars next year presenting together.
Yep, I think that's right. Or some sort of sit down, big PR stunt sit down.
Yeah.
I got one for you
by the way.
Before we wrap. And it is,
what's up?
I can't believe I'm going to do this.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's your pick for next year? What's your best picture pick?
The bet? Oh, wow. So, okay.
I'll tell you, I've seen everything at the festivals thus far this year. There's nothing that's come out. There's no Coda out there that's coming for best picture from the current releases.
That's the other thing about Coda is the history that it made. Like, it's
first Sundance movie
movie to win best picture. Is pretty amazing. So the Scorsese movie, what I do hope is that we do get, as much as like, I know I'm about to say, I hope 3 white guys get nominated for director, but like, I do hope we get a situation where James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, and Martin Scorsese are nominated for best director next year. And then like, I mean, I have to see what the rest of the field is. And then it's between those 3, you know? Yeah, I honestly, you're the better one to ask this question to. I'll go Avatar 2 is not winning a Oscar. I'll go Killers of the Flower Moon now, the Scorsese movie. And as I learn more about what else is coming out, I'll figure it out. What's your pick for right now?
I like you am down to those 3 as the 3 obvious picks. I'm going to go Avatar 2.
You think Avatar 2?
A rumbling around it that's so strong that I think that Avatar 2 could do it. It's going to dominate the tech categories every bit as much as Dune did this year. I'm going to go with Avatar 2. So the times people doubt James Cameron or when he comes back strongest, I'm making the crazy call now and say that Avatar, Undersea Adventure, whatever the hell it ends up being called, is our crazy town best picture winner next year.
So the Harvey Weinstein movie, She Said, directed by a woman, Maria Schrader, I think is her name. And that could be I don't want to say upset pick, but that could be the like, this is important and personal and about something recent that Hollywood rewards. And then you have the Chazelle movie Babylon that I think
the Chazelle movie is legit.
Yeah.
There's a David O. Russell movie that reunites him with Christian Bale. That's going to obviously have some heat. I don't think the Weinstein movie is going to make it. I think that's the sort of thing that I don't know what the budget is, but that seems like something that's going to win a Spirit Award.
Like Bombshell, like it's going to go that route where it's I don't know all these people, but
I don't think it's as fun as Bombshell. Okay. I think it's much more serious, which puts it more in a category like The Assistant, which was my number 1 movie 2 years ago, but is not something that is a real Oscar contender because it's a rough, miserable sit. I guess Spotlight's it.
It was number 3, Oz.
It was?
Yeah, you had what's it? Well, it might have been 2. You had The Father was your number 1 last year.
I thought I had The Assistant 1, Father 2.
It was might have been 2, but Father was 1. I remember that pod.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, top 2. There we go.
2,
Close enough.
Yeah.
I don't retract my love for The Father. That movie is incredible.
Look, we're talking about 2 amazing movies right now. The Father and The Assistant.
I wouldn't discount the Olivia Wilde movie.
What's it called? Don't Worry, Darling.
Don't Worry, Darling. Yeah. With Harry Styles and a bunch of famous people. That I think could be a player.
You want to talk about some takes? You have Ted Lasso dominating the Emmys, and then all of a sudden Olivia Wilde shows up with Harry Styles at the Oscars. Jeez, talk about uncomfortable. Okay, that's, by the way, that's the Oscars wants to get this right. Have Ted Lasso host the Oscars. Literally, Sudeikis, like, go as Ted Lasso and host the Oscars. No one's gonna imagine.
That's where you do a team up because he's good with the guy who plays Coach Beard. Have the 2 of them together. That'd be
have
perfect.
the whole Richmond team like host the Oscars next year. There's your solution. My heart pick is Jordan Peele. Nope. But again, I need to see a Jordan Peele film before I actually declare whether or not it's going to be Oscar worthy. Okay. I think we've done the 2022 award season justice, this thing that just would not end. Oz, do you have anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Thank God it's over.
Thank God it's over. Indeed. You can check out all Oz's stuff at the Invention of Dreams. You can follow me and him on our respective Twitter accounts that are in the bio of this episode, but as well, Oz is at Oz on Movies, and I'm at Andrew J. Claudio _. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It is Godfather Week here at Final Review, so we'll be diving into that this week. Oz, do you have anything? Go ahead.
If you're watching on YouTube,
yes,
down at the bottom of the screen, click that little subscribe button and the like button next to that as well, and come to follow us. Follow the Invention of Dreams on Twitter at Inventive Dreams, and come to theinventionofdreams.com.
There you go. Thank you for listening, everybody, and tune in next time for another Final Review.